Hello, everyone. This is your head coach, Kuya Kyle, and today we're going to be talking about edgeguarding in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is one of my favorite tactics to use in my matches, so I'm excited to teach this class. So, this will be an educational guide on how to efficiently edgeguard in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Edgeguarding is a popular technique that can turn small wins into guaranteed stocks if done correctly. So, let's begin. We're going to define what edgeguarding is. We're going to talk about resources next. I have two quick tips for you, and then some bad habits when it comes to edgeguarding. So, what exactly is edgeguarding? A lot of people like to throw this term around, but specifically, it's attempting to interrupt an opponent recovering from offstage to force a KO. Most edgeguarding strategies orbit around stopping their target from safely grabbing the ledge. So, if you think about edgeguarding, it's when most of the time both of you are off stage, but your job is to kind of literally guard the edge from your opponent. You could use this in a variety of ways, which we'll go over later in this course. So, what does edgeguarding actually look like? It could look like hitting your opponent to keep them off stage. It could also look like forcing them to burn all of their resources, and we will talk about resources in a bit. And it could also look like you going off stage yourself to land a strong hit. And the example here I main Yoshi. I love Yoshi. And this is one of my favorite versions of like an edge guard where you egg lay to poop them out and then hit a second one. That's one of my favorite ways to edge guard people. Um, Different characters have different edge guards, and everything could look a little bit different. So it's up to you to decide how you want to edge guard with your character. And this is just one that I find that I like to do a lot. All right, now let's talk about resources. All characters have the following resources when they're trying to recover. They have their extra jump. Most of the cast has a double jump, but there are some characters that have more than one jump, such as like Kirby, Jigglypuff, Meta Knight, King Deity, Pit, Dark Pit, Charizard, Sephiroth if he has winged form. I don't know if I'm missing anyone else, but basically anyone with extra jumps, keep that in mind. Everyone has an air dodge, so there's a neutral air dodge and a directional air dodge that they could use. Most of the time, they might try to air dodge towards the ledge and then grab the ledge right after the air dodge. But others might use an air dodge when they're really close to the blast zone and they're using it to momentum cancel back towards the stage. The third thing that characters have is their special moves. Most of the time, it's going to be their up B or side B. And lastly, it's other character unique moves. So think of like tether recoveries, such as Joker, Zero Suit Samus, the Belmonts, they actually have a tether recovery. So if your character has a unique ability that helps them recover, you could think of that as well. One very important note to think about moving forward with resources is that if you use your double jump, your midair jump doesn't refresh until you touch the stage again. So if you catch someone using their double jump and you hit them back off stage, just know that they do not have their extra jump anymore. All right, let's talk about burning your opponent's resources. So opponents with less resources have a much more predictable recovery. Predictable recoveries are much easier to edgeguard, and some resources might not be enough to make it back to ledge. So let's look at this Lil Mac, for example. So Lil Mac is notorious for having a very bad recovery, but he does have, his double jump, his air dodge, and he could use his side B and his up B to recover. But let's say you knock Lil Mac off stage horizontally and they use their side B. If you hit them again, their side B doesn't actually refresh. So it's really easy for you to edgeguard them if you could read their side B. If you knock them just far enough, they won't have any more horizontal movement. And they're most likely not going to make it back to the stage, even if they have access to like their up B still. With that in mind, I want you to try to use long-lasting attacks to cover airspace in order to force opponents into streamlined recoveries and bad positions. So this Lucas here is playing a very simple strategy of using PK Thunder to kind of wall out the Lil Mac just to make the edge guard a lot easier. And after, let's say, Lil Mac used side B after getting hit by this PK Thunder, that was just the whole stock. It doesn't matter if he was at 0% or if he was at 100%. His stock is getting deleted either way. And then my second quick tip is to cover common airspace. So most opponents, when they're trying to recover, tend to drift into this highlighted area. Probably depending on their recovery, but it's going to be somewhere in like this 45 angle. But with that in mind, you could try to occupy this space with more long-lasting aerials, some projectiles, or even try to like footstool. So if you could see this min right here, if you want to be a little flashy, you could run down, jump on her head, and footstool her so she gets kind of spiked to the blast zone here. Something very important to note is if they're anywhere below the red line here, so this red line, not this side one, but this top red line, anything below this ledge area, air dodging is most likely not an option for them unless they're like just like right here where their air dodge can make it. But if they're all the way down here, air dodging would just be an SD because their air dodger will not make it that far. So keep that in mind where that resource becomes invalid after it gets into this space. If they're above the ledge, then air dodging is a bit more of a valuable option for them. But down here, it's basically a useless option. Oh, another quick tip. Whoopsies. Observe for double jumps. Keep a sharp eye out for this visual that indicates that they're used for their double jump. So right here, if you see any character with this little symbol underneath them, they inputted their double jump and the game recognizes that they're using their double jump resource at that point in time. And if we go back, remember that if they use their double jump and you hit them, they lose this resource until they make it back onto the stage. And because if they lose this resource, their recovery becomes a lot weaker. A lot of characters' double jumps is their cornerstone of making it back to stage. So being able to have them waste this resource would make edgeguarding a lot easier just because you know that this very important action is no longer granted to them anymore. Right. So bad habit number 1 that I see a lot of people, especially more lower level players or people that haven't gotten a lot of hours into this game, is always going for spikes. And I get it. It looks really cool to hit your opponent and they just get spiked straight down to the blast zone. You look cool. It looks flashy. It makes a pretty lights. We all love it. This Dr. Mario lands a really... Oh, this is me, by the way. All these clips are me. I get it. If you land a spike, it looks really cool. But if you go for spikes all the time, that'll make your edge guarding a lot more predictable. And it allows your opponent to kind of read your edge guard and recover a lot safer. So instead of just going for spikes all the time, just go for like an easier attack to hit, like a long-lasting nair or a projectile, to first call out their recovery. And then if they're still trying to make it back, that's when you go for a spike. The second bad habit that I want to talk about with y'all today is not limit testing your own edge guards. So when some players, when they try to edge guard, they go a bit too far off the stage. So even if they do land like a forward air or a spike or any move, if they do land that edge guard, they aren't physically able to make it back themselves. So that results in an SD. On the other side of this coin, some players are too scared to jump off stage to attempt edge guards. So they just kind of let their opponent recover for free. So with that in mind, to kind of fix this bad habit for whichever side you're on, I want you to go to practice mode and kind of emulate edge guarding by throwing the CPU off stage and just practicing your own edge guards. Not only it will teach you like which moves is like easier to edge guard with, but it can also help you practice jumping off stage, throwing out some attacks, and seeing how deep you can go off stage without losing a stock. Trust me, this helps a lot just because I see a lot of people overestimating or underestimating their edge guards. So just taking like even like a whole day, just like labbing out different edge guards can mean a lot for your future success. I don't know if you heard that really loud firework in the background. Okay, let's do a quick recap. One quick recap before we end the class today. So edgeguarding is attempting to interrupt the opponent from recovering from off stage, which can force a KO. Most edgeguarding strategies orbit around stopping their target from safely grabbing the ledge. As you can see here, the Marth knocks Toon Link off stage, read the double jump from the ledge, and then goes off stage to hit with a forward air. And now it's too far away for him to make it back. Edgeguarding can look like hitting the opponent to keep them off stage, forcing them to burn all of their resources, or going off stage yourself to land a strong hit. For here, Yoshi is going off stage with an egg lay to poop Kazuya into the blast zone. All characters have the following resources when recovering. They have their extra jump, so most likely just one. They have their air dodge, their special move, and their any other character specific moves. And if you do your double jump, you don't get that back until you touch the stage again. When opponents have less resources, they have a much more predictable recovery, which is great for us because that's a lot easier to edgeguard. And some recoveries need key resources to make it back. So if you burn them properly, that's a free stock. So try using long-lasting attacks to cover airspace to force opponents into these more streamlined and bad positions, or these streamlined recoveries and bad positions. Next up, or the first quick tip is to cover common airspace. So if they're ever in this area, you could cover this with an aerial pretty consistently. Try to occupy the space with aerials, projectiles, or even a footstool. And note that if they're below this invisible ledge line, that air dodging is not an option for people in this area. And observe for double jumps. So if you ever see this little symbol after someone double jumps, that's your cue to go in for an edge guard, just because if you can force them to lose that key recovery or that key resource, it makes the recovery a lot easier to interrupt. The first bad habit is always going for spikes. So let's say whenever you do get your opponent off stage, you always go for that forward air or some type of dunk. And although it looks cool, try using like an easier move to land first and then going for the spike, just so it's a lot more simple for you to edgeguard with a flashy move. And lastly is not limit testing, because some people go way too deep for their edge guards when other people are too scared to go off stage to edge guard. So just go in training mode and practice doing it on a computer, not only practicing which moves are best for edge guarding, but also how far you can go without risking your safety. And that is everything. Happy 4th of July, and I hope to see you all soon.